Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. We appreciate you joining us today. The SEC does have a football plan. They put it out this week. Well, they told you a good basis of it. We're not completely sure about it yet, but we'll discuss that. At least there is a plan. That looks like a step in the right direction. And hopefully today, another step in the right direction. ABC News isn't planning to break in with any kind of breaking news, so we should be here with you for the entire 90 minutes. We appreciate you joining us. Let's get started. First segment of our show brought to you by Junk Be Gone. Now, I use this company every single year, and the reason is simple: ease. If I want something out of my house, I rent their driveway dumpster, load it up, have them haul it off. It's easy, it's quick, it's affordable, it's painless. And if I had something bigger that I wanted them to take out that I didn't even want to fool with, I would have them bring their crew over, and they would do the lifting for me and take that stuff out of there. Get rid of your junk the best way possible, the easy way. Call Junk Be Gone, junkbegone.biz to learn more. All right, welcome in today's panelists. We have right here Jimmy Hyams from Sports Animal 99.1. Right down there, we wanted the former athlete, former coach perspective. We get that in Mark Pancratz. Thanks for being back with us. And down there, Chuck Cavaliers, UT superfan. So we've got reputable reporter, superfan, former player coach. We got it covered. And loudmouth host. So let's talk about what the SEC did announce this week. We can go ahead and put up the information for you. It's going to be a 10-game football season this fall. No non-conference games. All of them canceled, and it is a late start. Starts on September 26th. Each team will play 10 league foes only. Each team gets one open date, which can be used to make up games if need be. All 14 teams get the week of December 12th off, which again can be used to make up games if necessary. And then the SEC Championship game is scheduled for December 19th, which might tell you something about their views of the college football playoff. That's only a couple of weeks before the playoff would commence if there is a playoff. This kills the annual SEC-ACC rivalry games at the end of the year. On the other hand, a positive that I've said since March, playing all SEC teams keeps all of the money right inside the league's coffers. So I think the plus there, and also the reason they gave is it allows you to control everything COVID related. Everybody has the same testing policies. Everyone has the same procedures. If someone does test positive, you don't have to worry about some non-conference bowl you're playing. Makes sense. The big question, though, now that you've seen this 10-game plan, do you feel better about college football now that there's something tangible to look at, or are you still worried?
I'm still worried. I don't mean to sound like Debbie Downer, but I'm still worried. I think the same concerns apply whether you have a schedule or not. So I think there's still an issue about it. When you start looking around at the landscape around other sports, you've got concerns. So I think it's nice that they have made a declaration of when they're going to start and when the championship game is and all that. But it's still a long way to go, and we've seen this thing change on just about a daily basis. There's still a long time to go between now and the first game of the season.
Well, I think, to your point, Jimmy, it's great that we've got games, but my big question is when the students come on campus, exactly. what are the protocols there, and how do you keep the kids healthy to be able to play games? I do like the SEC talking to coaches. There's some people that think that some of the ways that they can get around getting that TV money is, even if you've played an opponent one time before, but if both of your opponents end up canceling because, say I'm Tennessee, I'm playing Kentucky, Florida's playing Georgia. If Kentucky and Georgia both have COVID tests, Tennessee could end up playing Florida again, and they could just change it within the season just to make sure that they get their TV games. Because if they don't get enough TV games, they're not going to get TV money. So it's another way that they can control. But with all that said, the big question for me is how are they going to keep the kids locked down enough and away from students to be able to be on the field?
Yeah, and that's one thing when I ask you from a coach's perspective a little later in the show, how the heck you convince players to behave like monks. Chuck, your thoughts on the 10-game schedule? We debated last week on the show, when is the SEC just going to go ahead and announce this? And we've been pushing for conference only. Okay, now they've done it. Were you surprised by anything that they announced? Do you like what they've come up with?
Well, I mean, we still have some details that have to come out, right? You still need to know who your other non-conference opponents are going to be. What's the schedule? What's the order of the games going to be played? I think a lot of people are assuming because Florida was on the schedule for September 26th, that's who you would play September 26th. We don't know that for sure yet. I think it's going to be interesting to see what else happens, but there's so many more things that we've got to learn and find out, and so many good things have to happen. So right now, do you feel better or worse? Well, I feel better they took the step that we thought, and a lot of people thought, was the best way to approach this now. But there's still a lot of things we need to know.
Gentlemen, we interviewed Philip Fulmer on Friday. The suggestion was made playing the 6 East Division teams right up at the first 6 games you have scheduled in the 4 West teams, so you could get all your division games in. He said that's a good idea. I'll pass that along to the commissioner. I'm sure the commissioner's thought about that. But anyway, that's one of the things that they were looking at. So Chuck's right. Just because it says Florida on September 26th, that doesn't mean that's what you're going to get on that particular day.
Yeah, we've been pushing that on this show for as long as this has been in the conversation, the idea that you play all 6 up front, because then, I don't know that you get through 6, much less 10. Yeah. But let's say you got through 6 and it's starting to bog down, you can at least declare champions. If you have another week, you may be able to put 2 together and have a true championship game at that point. If they don't put the division foes up front, I'm not going to understand why. I think that makes the most sense to do it that way. Mark, from a coach's standpoint, how difficult is it at this stage of the game to just now be knowing, I may need to throw away my schedule? How tough is that? I know you're a basketball guy, but you can imagine this was basketball season and someone just said, hey, in a month, you may or may not be playing that schedule you've worked to put together.
Well, I think the strength and conditioning side for the athlete now is more important than ever, because how are you going to maintain and train your guys? You haven't seen them a lot this summer. Now you got to get them prepared for not only just a 10-game slate, but a 10-game slate against SEC-type caliber athletes. And with lack of preparation and then those off weeks, I think it's going to be a huge challenge for coaches to prepare. The X's and O's wise, I think you're going to have some coaches that they're going to come out and add a lot more wrinkles that are going to be beneficial. They're willing to make adjustments than those other coaches who are just kind of set in their ways. And so I think there's going to be a lot of challenges, but I think it starts on the nutrition and the strength and conditioning side.
Very good. And the interesting thing about this, the NCAA is allowing teams to start their preseason this coming Friday, August 7th. If the SEC goes ahead with August 7th, they're going to have 7 weeks to get ready for the season, which is a lot longer than now. You lost spring practice, but a 7-week preseason, that's a good trade, if you will.
Well, but the one thing, talking to coaches and the football side, they're practicing them in small pods of groups of 6, so that way if there is a positive test, all 27 or 30 guys in a group don't have to go into quarantine. And so now, yes, there's a longer time, but if you're only working guys out in groups of 6 or maybe 10, it's hard to train an entire team to be prepared for an actual game setting. So they're going to need that ramp-up time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what lessons we might be learning from baseball a little later in this show. By the way, before we go to break, I do want to mention, for those that haven't seen it, former UT head football coach Bill Battle, hospitalized with COVID right now. We certainly wish him the best from here at the Sports Source. The NCAA gave schools the permission to start a week early, but the SEC went the opposite way. They're starting 3 weeks behind everybody else. Is that the right play or the wrong play? We'll discuss going back.